Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome officially to the episode 10 of ASEAN Teacher Webinar Series. And today, episode is on the topic of how to teach grammar. My name is Bensapon Pomahat, or you can call me Book. I am the program manager of English program from British Council, Thailand, and I am also the moderator of today's event. And joining with me today are the speakers who are teachers and teacher educators from Indonesia, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam, who will be meeting in a minute. Before I hand over to them for the introduction of themselves, let me give you a little bit of the background and the housekeeping. This webinar series is the cooperation of the British Council English program team in Indonesia, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam in order to promote our global MOOC or massive open and online courses, which is offered for the teachers around the world for free. And this month of August, we are promoting the course which is called Teaching Pathway, How to Teach Grammar, which is the same topic as we are having for today. And the link to the course and the information for signing up will be provided to you in the chat box, and you will hear a bit more toward the end of this webinar. And for the housekeeping, there's a few points that I should address here. First of all, please feel free to keep your camera on, but please make sure that you mute yourself during the session. Do share any comments or your ideas in the chat box. And if you have any question, please feel free to leave your question at the Q&A box as well. And lastly, please note that this session is now being recorded. And so your image, your comment might be recorded as well. And the recording is so for the purpose of, for anyone who didn't have time to attend this live session, and so they can watch the recording after today's sessions as well. And this webinar is also being live streaming on British Council Indonesia YouTube channel. So after we finish this live session, you can also go back to watch it if you want to watch it more than once. That's kind of all for me. Now, without further ado, let me give the floor to the speaker to introduce themselves, going by alphabetical order of the country. May I start with you, Ubi? The floor is yours now.
Okay, thank you, Book. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this webinar for How to Teach Grammar for ASEAN Teachers Webinar Series by British Council. I'm Upik Hasati. I'm an English teacher in Senior High School to Purbalingga, Central Java, Indonesia. I've been teaching English is about 20 years, and then there are so many challenges in teaching English because in Indonesia, English is not a second language, but it's foreign languages. Thank you, Book.
Hello, everyone. My name is Al Jopyo, but you can call me Al. I'm a teacher for like 12 years, nearly 12 years now. But now I've been recently working as a teacher trainer. So I'm both a teacher and a teacher trainer. So I'm from Myanmar, and then I'm from Saya Foundation. So we a local NGO that emphasize on the education and religion as well. So
thank you.
Nice to meet you, everyone.
Nice to meet you too. Then Thailand, can I welcome Rapid to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Katarina Vuna from the Myanmar School. I'm in the north of Thailand, and I'm an English teacher for like 12 years, and I'm also an teacher trainer as well. So you can call me Rapid, it's easier. And nice to meet you all. Hopefully that today we can share our experience in how to teach grammar to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Rapid. Now here's come to our last speaker, Annie.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nguyễn Đức Ân, and you can call me Annie for short. I am a teacher of English at the Bắc University in the northwest of Vietnam. I have been teaching English for 14 years, and my students are from the primary to adults, but mostly I work with the primary and university students. Besides working as a teacher, I also work as a teacher trainer in some teacher training programs. And currently I am running some community projects, and I am the founder and leader of EdTech group, as well as the co-leader of K-12 PD group of Viet TESOL Association. I would like to send my sincere thanks to David and British Council for inviting me to join in this webinar. And so it's nice to see all of you here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Annie. So we have quite wide range of teachers who teaching from primary to adults, to like adult learners as well. That would be quite interesting session today. Here's come the first question, because the topic is how to teach grammar. I would like to ask you, how do you teach grammar, and what are the challenges you face with your grammar lesson? Can I start with Upik again? Is that all right? You are on mute, Upik.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in Indonesia, as I said earlier, that is not a second language. This is the mother tongue. The mother tongue of the English is so many various languages. So in teaching grammar, we have to know about the motivation of the students first, and then we try to relate to their daily life, and then relate to their experience. So try to make sure that they know about the context first, and then after that we have to teach grammar after that. And repetition is a kind of really needed in teaching grammar in Indonesia, because it is really need to make them know well by recalling the memories about the form after they know how to use that languages, and then how to communicate after that. So communicate it first, and then know the students well about how to communicate in that form, and then we go to the point of how the form of the grammar is, and then practice for exercises, eliciting, and then after that they done that one. Yeah, sometimes the challenge is about they just think about the form just for the task, and then not about how the using of the language itself by the grammar to communicate, to make them good in a soft skill, because soft skill of public speaking need a good grammar also. I think that's all, book. Thank you.
Thank you, Upik. So like not just the form, but also integrating some communication and related to student, of course. Because we are now the group of teacher teach secondary student. Can I go to you next, Rapid, because you're also teaching secondary students as well?
Yes, thank you, Book. So I think the situation in Thailand is not very different from what we have in Indonesia. But I think that I myself teach using both of inductive and deductive way of teaching grammar. I mean, like sometimes students need some time to, give very, very detailed of the rules of the grammar, right? So we kind of have like directly teach them the rule. And I think I use that kind of in a deductive way to wrap up some of the grammar, like for some very simple tenses, because I think they have learned about this before. But for the inductive way, I help them with the some kind of new grammar for them, like how to use signal words in cooking. So thinking of giving them example first, that really helped them. So And one more thing that I think of it as, we should think of the way or the activity that help them to relate to their real life of using English. Yeah, so I think that I will, elaborate more later.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because you also mentioned the terminology like inductive. Sorry, did I get that right or not?
Inductive and deductive.
Deductive, right. Would you be able to like describe what are the meaning of the two terminologies are?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
the audience like
I
myself was not.
Right. Okay, so inductive way of teaching grammar is that you give them some of the example first, and then later on you have them time for noticing the form of the grammar. But deductive way, it's like directly tell them this is the rule, this is the form of the grammar, and then later on you give them the practice or example later. Yeah, I think it helps.
Yeah, thank you. It's clear a lot to me. Thank you, Robert. Then we have our secondary teacher. Maybe I can move a little bit more to like older groups of learner. Can I ask Annie, would you like to share a bit how do you teach grammar and what are the challenges?
Yeah, honestly, I was heavily affected by the traditional grammar methods and the PPP. Present, practice, and production methods when I was a student at school. And these two methods have deeply affected my teaching habits. However, since I learned about teaching grammar communicatively, I have tried my best to make my grammar lesson more communicative and meaningful by designing the interactive and fun activities to help my students learn grammar more easily and meaningfully. But honestly, it's a hard work, but worth when I see my students' happiness, active engagement, as well as their improvement in English language learning.
Thank you so much, Annie.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure you'll share like examples of activities to the audience a bit afterward. Before we're going to that part, we can like ask on because you teach quite wide range of learner and yourself as well is a teacher trainer. Would you like? It's the same question basically. Would you like to share with us from your context, please?
In Myanmar, the one of the main problem is like we learn grammar we learn English as a subject. So in school we were learning English not as a language but as a subject. That is the main problem that we have in Myanmar. So the problem is even if we use PPP, like just as Annie has already discussed, go to present practice, and then we left out the production part. So we don't even produce. So we just do the first two P and then we stop there. So that is the problem with that, the teaching method in Myanmar, and most of the students are used to that kind of teaching method, and they don't know how to talk. So that's one main challenge when I'm teaching to Myanmar students. And another thing is the grammar of English and grammar of Burmese. So most of the people in Myanmar spoke Burmese, and all the other languages as well. The way we see the time is very different, and the grammar is very different. The grammar is very different. So for us to understand the tenses and to inflections, things like this are very difficult for our students. So because we see the time very differently, right? So for us is past and present is the same. Like so we use the same tenses. We can refer to use the same tenses that we're using for the present. And for English people, they can use the present tenses like ing, present continuous to talk the future. So it is completely different. So tenses and grammatical inflections like ed and as, they are very difficult for our students. So to overcome that, like as we are focusing too much on the accuracy, we trying to put the game element into the grammar teaching, so that like they don't have the burden of making the mistakes, worrying about making the mistakes, and focusing too much on accuracy. So I'm trying to lift off the burden by incorporating the game elements into the classroom, so that they feel that they're not studying anymore because they are just trying to communicate, they're just trying to play the game, and they're just trying to win the game. So in that way, so I make the grammar learning fun and interactive. So in that way, I'm trying to overcome those challenges. Thank you.
I think that's a very solid point. Like you learn something when you kind of like enjoyed it rather than feeling you're forced to do something. Thank you.
Excuse me, Book.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry because I missed mentioning about the challenges that I have when I teach grammar in Vietnam. As I told you, in Vietnam, grammar is still highly emphasized, and the grammar tests still dominant, which means successful students need to do very well in the English test. But you know, learning a language is not learning the grammar, but many other aspects of the language. And it is one of the most common challenges that I and the other EFL teachers usually have to face up with. Second, there are many rules to focus on when we teach grammar, like the rules in the forms, the meaning, the use. There's a lot. And in many cases, the teachers have to teach all these rules in only one lesson, which is only 45 minutes. And it's not enough time for the teachers with the fun and interactive activities. And the third one, the very big class size with a very small space is a very popular problem in Vietnam, maybe 45 or 50 students in one classroom. So it's really difficult for the teachers to design the activities that require the student movement. For example, when I want to use the running dictation activity, and I have to hide the sentences around the classroom, but there's no space for my student to run around the class to find the sentences. So it's really difficult for the teachers in Vietnam to design the learning activities that can engage the students. Thank you. So here are the three most common problems that I usually have in my grammar lessons that I want to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think like I can see like a few comments or several comments from the audience here. We have one saying, when teaching grammar, many teachers waste their time on explanations and rules, user structure. I think like we all share kind of the same challenges here, and students don't have much time to practice, which is also lead to like the challenges also mentioned. I think we can all agree here. I can see the audience mentioned that students mainly study for the test, they study English as a subject itself, not as a language. So then it might be a lot more challenges and less fun for them to learn. Then traditionally we mentioned about challenges, and I think next we like to discuss about solutions on what kind of activities or things you do with your student to overcome the challenges you mentioned. You mentioned three main challenges. If there's any, maybe it's good for us to go with you as a first speaker who address the challenges.
Thank you, Book. And so as I mentioned before, I have three main challenges. So, you know, with different challenge, we have different ways to show, right? So with the first challenge about the teaching approach, I have tried to use approaches flexibly in the different lessons. I try to design at least one fun activity for to involve my student participation and interaction. Because to me, the most important thing in my teaching is that my student must be happy in the classroom. So I try to make them happy by letting them playing some games. And with the second challenge, with the overload learning content, I learned how to focus on only one or two activities that are interesting but effective, not to cover everything in the textbook. With the adult students, I might ask them to read at home, I spend some time checking their understanding in the classroom, and I encourage them to produce the language in the class so that they have more time to practice the grammar points. With the big class size and the small space, besides using the fleet model, I also use group work. So the strong student may support the weak students. And I may go around the class to support the groups if they have difficulties. So here are some of the ways that I use in my classroom, not only in teaching grammar, but in some other classes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Annie. So
eager to listen to you.
Yeah, focus on only one topic and use maybe like group activities just to like minimize the time using the class.
Exactly.
For the second speaker, may I ask Upin, can you maybe go first? What activities do you use?
Yeah, actually, for teaching grammar, I usually make them fun first, make them comfort, and then I use a topic here because topic that related to the form that we will discuss about. Okay, and then I prepare about some exercises and some kinds of genre text that relate to the grammar form. Okay, so they will be enjoy that one, and then we have fun by grouping, like Annie said. Okay, because more heads, I think that will be solve their problem when they really clumsy to say about what they have to make mistake when they are in grammaring. Okay, so after that one, after we choose the topic, and then we try to find out together all of the student to decide whether about daily life or about the family that related to the form, and then after that we have to engage that one, engage of the activities, and then to learn the form of the grammar. After learn the form of the grammar, then we activating it. So we activate about the grammar activation. So that will be some more practices that stick to the point of the grammar form. And then, yeah, after that, yeah, we have to introduction the topic first, and then lead in for this having communication, speaking, and then find to the target of the grammar. And then after that, learn more about the practices. And that's the other. And then paper plan, and then the other kinds of strategies that I use for them, timeline. They really enjoy that because they produce the languages by their heart, and then they really try to not afraid to make mistake after that, because we just engage together, and then they are interactive. They're asking a lot, though sometimes they use bahasa Indonesia, but I accept that because yeah, using that one is okay, because learning grammar have to be fun for them, and then when they are happy, so I'm happy too. So that's about my strategy to activation the grammar. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very nice activity sharing with us. Okay. I'm pretty sure like when students have fun, it's also important that they like give feedback. They get feedback from the work that's done too. What
Yeah.
about you, Rapid? You as a secondary teacher, like to share with us the same thing. to see yours.
Right. So thank you, Annie, and you pick for mention lots of activities that they use in teaching grammar with the students, and I think that I didn't have the different thing from them, but in my own self-belief, I think that I really want my student to think that grammar is in their real life. As Al mentioned that he doesn't want the student to think that this is a subject, this is a language that they are going to use in their real life. So I use myself as a model of the presenting the grammar thing. So let's say that I use the personalized activity for them. So Annie and Upik mentioned the timeline. So I also use a timeline, and I use myself as show them that the situation happens in the past, so they know that okay, this is the thing that already finished. So and I also think that I have them play games and have them do the activity that kind of practice the form after we present them the form of the grammar thing. So it's not different, but think of the time that we are going to give them to notice the form. And as Upik mentioned, the repetition. So think of the repetition time for the student as well. Thank you.
So kind of like making it meaningful for the students as well. Thank you, Rapid. And what about you? How do you how do you use activities with your learners, with quite wide range of learners?
Yes, I also use the timeline to teach about tenses because it is a good way to visualize and it make it tangible for them, and so something they can see, right? So tenses is not very complicated and something they can see, so that it is easier to grasp for them, right? So another way is, as Rabbit has already mentioned, I use my personal stories. I start with maybe, for example, if I'm teaching about simple past tense, I use my last vacation as an example. I went to blah, blah, blah. And then if I want them to make questions, I ask them, put them into groups, and then I ask them to make the questions. And sometimes I give the assistance, so because they don't know how to make the questions in simple past tense. Some of the students know, some of the students do not know. And then they will make the questions, they will have the questions, and then they will ask me about ask the follow-up questions about my last vacations. And then I will use the same set of questions to ask them, to their partners, their friends about their last vacations. So only after that, I will go to the form and I will go to the patterns. So we don't directly dive into the patterns first, and we will just go with the personal stories. And then, so the need to communicate, right? So I usually start with the need to communicate. So where is the need to communicate? If there is no need to communicate, what is the point of using language? So I always start with, so they went to talk about their last vacation. They want to ask about their friend's last vacation. We start from there, and then we will go to the form. After that, for consolidating the knowledge, I use some kind of games so that they can make the questions very quickly. Maybe it's a bit like a drill, but it is not a, it would be like a class drill or something like that. One of the students will have to say the one word of a question. So just one word. So it is, they just say, maybe you start with WH, and one of the students say why, and one of the students say where. And then after that, I will point to another student randomly, choose the students randomly, and they will have to say, oh, you will have to give me a helping bath. And then they will give a did, and I say why, where, did, and you give me a subject, you, right? So then, and I will point to another student, you give me a main bath, where did you go? And they make it questions without focusing too much on the phone, but at the same time, they're learning the form, right? So by doing that, I'm getting them to notice the patterns of the WH questions, and at the same time, they're using simple past questions. So I start from the need, and then they go to the form and then use the game. These are the ways that I'm trying to overcome the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you for quite like detailed step and stages of teaching. I'm pretty sure our audience will find it quite useful. So a lot of them has shared quite a lot of their experience and activities or thought about themselves. That's the challenges that we have to discuss. And the next question we have here is how, or what do you think the teaching language to young learners or teen is different from teaching grammar to adults, because I think I'd like to utilize the benefit of we having quite wide range of teachers here. And I know Annie also teaching primary students as well. Maybe we start with the youngest group of learners. Can I start with you, Annie?
Yeah. I teach primary students a lot. So, and I can recognize that teaching primary students should be very simple, very simple. I don't pay too much attention to the student errors or the mistakes, and I let my students be free to make the mistakes. And I can give the feedback on the common mistake at the end of the activities. So it means I try not to use the instant feedback because I don't want to interrupt my students' fluency. So in general, accuracy is important, but I think that at primary level, accuracy is not really important. I pay more attention to the student fluency than the accuracy. And I know that with the older the student, the higher requirement that you have for your student. And I'm eager to listen to you.
Thank you, Annie. So like the kids are quite young, so it's quite important to stress on fluency.
Yeah, they are very simple.
Confident use.
Yes.
Rather than like afraid of making mistake. What about our secondary group? I start with Upi, quite a lot of them. Maybe this time I start with Rabbit.
Yes.
Okay,
So
okay,
so who?
Rabbit. Okay, Rabbit. Go
All right.
first, please.
We're the same level of the students. So thank you. Sorry, Opik, for interrupting. So yes, thank you. And I think I do agree with what Annie said about in primary student they will think about like what word they are going to like pronounce. So let's say that we need to think as a teacher, we need to think about the concrete and abstract concept of the grammar thing, of the language maybe. So yeah, I think that the primary student will focus a lot about like, can I pronounce it correctly or not? But for the, like older students, they might think or concern more about like taking the test or something like that. So yeah, let's say that we should think of the grammar thing later. So imagine, let's say that you are going to teach about life experience, right? So you tell your student, okay, let's learn about life experience and let's learn about present perfect. What would happen, right? Which one that student will be like more interested in? So yeah, let's try to think of the context first, and then later on let them notice about the grammar points or the form or the rules, and then you can go further with the form. Yeah, and so you can add things that they are interested because you know that they are teenagers. So you can add like some idols, some sport players, some of the singers, some celebrities that they like. You add them on the materials and they will say like, oh, teacher, you know him, you know her. And they are more like, okay, I have more, motivation to learn, and they can share they share, some of my students share my materials, like my exercise on the social media, that they said, oh, some teacher know this, yeah, know that person. So I think that this kind of help for teenagers, yeah.
Thank you, Professor. Like we're moving to be a bit more complicated, to be more like related to students' life once you get a bit older to secondary age. Thank you, Rapid. Upik, secondary levels as well, your stage now.
Okay, thank you. Well, for make the secondary students easier to differentiate within the children, one is of course the children should be more shorter, simpler, okay, but from the senior high school that will be so have to create, but yeah, relate to their life first, giving a topic or they really know about how to express about uh the life that they had, and then they try to relate to the form, and then after that they try to be what that one reflect what they have learned, and then after that they have to make sure the discussion for focus group discussion, and then sometimes I use a visual one, or maybe for the videos, so make them easier to catch about. We have to stop about the highlight of the form that we will discuss about, so that will be make easier. Oh, that's using for this one, okay, let's try that one over and over and over again, and after that they know them, and then they replace that to their communicative one, and then they know that, and then for the exercises they can answer that, mean that yeah, they can recall it easier, okay. And then the task for the younger one, it should be more enjoyable, of course, yeah. And then for the senior high school, more challenging than the children one. But the most important thing here is still repeat the language features and then the function is, and then we try to repeat again and try to be more patient. When they're making a mistake, we just praise them. That's okay. That's okay to make mistake. Let's try again. And then touch their heart. So we can bonding one. And then the goals of learning of grammar will be achieved, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Upik. Let them make mistake and just be patient and keep supporting them. That's a very kind
Yeah.
of classic, but I'm pretty sure it's work this way. That's why it's classic. Thank you. What about you must have quite experience comparing between different ages of learners as well. Would you like to share with us how you think there are like differences?
For the adults learner, they like to focus much on the why we have to use this way and why we have to use that way. So they like to negotiate a lot. They like to discuss a lot. Even if you do not ask them to negotiate about meaning or rules, even if I ask them to write some questions, and then they will, in the group, they will be chatting away about, why do you have to do this? And why do you have to use this one instead of other, right? So they will be discussing and arguing. They like to argue a lot. So maybe input-based activity would be one of the input-based activity that I like, if called guided discovery learning method, guided discovery learning. So from reading, I asked them to underline the targeted grammar items and then ask them to come up with the rules. So we don't teach the rules directly. It is more of an inductive method, right? So just as Rabbit has mentioned, it is more of an inductive method, but it is an input-based method, right? So from the reading, we underline the grammar items, and then they have to come up with their own rules. So what do they think of it, right? So then they will have to discuss each other, and then they will have to sometimes argue a lot, and then some in a heated discussion they will. So it is good for them, because like, so this discover the rules by themselves, so it stay in the mind forever. So I think it is a very effective way of teaching adults grammar. And another way is output-based method. It is the what we call a to clause. So I will write it in the chat so that so maybe most of you have already know it. Like I don't know, DICT to clause. So this is like so it is an output-based method. What you have to do is the teacher will have to read out a paragraph, and then a paragraph, or it can be a conversation or something like that. What the students will have to do is they have to reconstruct the sentence, reconstruct the sentences that they hear in groups, right? So that they will be arguing, they will be discussing whether, because there are so many gaps with the listening, and then with the sentences, maybe they will just have 2 or 3 words for one sentence, so that they will have to reconstruct it using their grammar. So it would be a good way to make the grammar rules surface themselves, right? So that is like, so they know that, but they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to, they will be using those grammar rules to discuss about it. Okay, so here is 1. Okay, it may be followed by 2, and it will be followed by the infinitive. They will be discussing, and they will be co-constructing the paragraph. So in that way, the grammar, learning grammar as a byproduct, right? So that is another output-based method. So these are the ways that I teach grammar to adults. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very important underlining that like they kind of need to be more engaged with the learning process themselves. That's why they like remember and learn something. I think that's very useful, and I think our audience find it quite useful as well. They keep like sharing the activities and stuff that they do in the class. That's very useful. So keep sharing it. I think that's benefit to us as well. And then I kind of coming to the last session, my last question of mine, like if you, I like to ask our speaker here, if there's like 1 or 2 top tips of teaching grammar that you like to share with our audience today, what would be your top tips? Can I start with because you are normally the last speaker I asked for the previous question, so I'd like to ask you first now. Floor is yours.
Sorry, I'm having a very poor connection today. So yeah, my only
I think your voice is broken up a bit. I think can we skip you for now, and I will go back to you a bit later. Is that okay? I think like your connection will probably go back in a few minutes. Maybe can I ask what's next? Can I ask Ulpik as a second speaker? You're kind of like next to my screen now. So.
Okay, yeah. Well, one of the top tips here, well, yeah, we have to offer lots of relevant to the students, okay, what they needs in learning the grammar one, what they really will be relate to their daily life, to their communicating with the teenagers, other teenagers, and the teachers. And then after that, they have to be more games. So because fun will be make them easier to what they would chew the grammar, okay, and then repetition again, repetition or comprehending the grammar. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ulpik. You're back now. Can I go back to you?
I'm having a bad day.
Yeah,
so let's start with the need to communicate, right? So that is trying to make them hungry for the language. So don't start with the language, right? So bait the students with the the urge to create the urge to communicate. They want to tell something in English, right? So they make the desire, bend in their heads, right? So that is like, so they want to, I want to say this to someone, in English. Maybe, for example, like, if I don't have the language, if I don't speak English, I won't be able to speak to book, right? So that is like, because I don't know Thai, right? So just sawadee ka, and so then only a few, right? So that is the need to communicate the language is the first thing that we have to identify in the grammar lessons, right? That is my tip for the day. Thank you.
Thank you. So create the need for the learner. Can I go to Andy next? Andy. Yes, it's you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Book. Okay, I can see you have a lot of top tips, and I learned a lot from you. I want to share my experience, not the tips, just my experience only. I know that most EFL teachers have a lot of pressures of how and what to teach, but please think out the box and be innovative in the teaching. To me, the most important thing in teaching is that the lesson must be meaningful, interactive, and fun. So I try to use games a lot in my classrooms to make my students relax in their learning. The second thing is that do not overwhelm your student with linguistic terminology. I was very surprised when my fifth graders know and say aloud many rules about the past simples, hence about the regular and irregular verbs. But when they practice, they can't use all the rules and they still make a lot of mistakes. So why don't the teachers spend time on practice activities, not on explaining the theories and the rules, so that I think that the students have more time to practice, so they learn from practice activities. So here are the two experiences that I want to share with you. Not the tips. I don't think it's a tips. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. So teacher to be innovative, introduce meaningful lesson, don't overwhelm student with terminology, and more practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Robin? Not sure now.
Right. That's all for today. No. Okay. So thank you everyone for saying all of the things and all the tips that you have with the class. And for myself is that bring something into the class and take something out of the class. So I mean, you bring something to the class, so student will see like there's something new to them. So once I have 2 cases from America, so I bring them to the class and I let them. So at that time, they learned about how to create the asking and giving information, right? So I let them use the WH question words and ask and interview the 2 cases. So yeah, so that's the time. Once bring someone in and take something out from the class. So when I had the student think of how to write some of the giving some idea of do you agree with using mobile phone? And I had my friend in Lamphun, and we are kind of close to each other. She is an English teacher as well. So I had my student write an email about the idea of the using mobile phone and send the email to her students. So it's kind of like, you know, you bring something to the class. So this activity bring to the class and student take away what I taught them to other people as well. So as I always mention that students need to think that the language is in their real life. So they are going to use it in their real life as well. Yeah, that's my tips.
Thank you, Beth. That's kind of all the tips that I share from our speaker. And it's kind of, we are getting like, I think like toward the end of the conversation here, we have like quite big theme of students seeing grammar is more like kind of like for test, for exam, and lifeless. And if we, as a teacher or teacher educator, try to introduce activity or lesson that are meaningful for them, whatever it is, to suit for that age level, I'm pretty sure they'll be enjoying it and learn quite a lot from the class. Now is the Q&A session, which I can't see. Do we have any questions from the audience now? But despite not having question, I feel like a lot of us, a lot of teachers here have been sharing quite a lot of useful techniques and their own activities that they have introduced to the class, challenges that we all share, not just from Thailand, not just from Indonesia. It's kind of like the same in this region. So I think I'll skip the Q&A because we don't have any. And now like we are coming to like the actually the last part of our webinar, which I mentioned earlier that in this month of August is the end of, toward the end of August now, that we are promoting our global move or our online course, which is called Teaching Pathway, How to Teach Grammar. And let me show my colleague will be sharing the screen. If you see the screen now, this is the course we are promoting at the moment. The Q&A code we provided here, you scan and register to the course for free, and that will be kind of like a course outline, will be 3 modules that you can learn. It's a self-access with some moderation session, which you can learn on your own pace. The course will be starting today, and you can register from today up until 19 September, and which give you a little bit of time and flexible to do that. Previously, we got quite a lot of questions from the audience asking how can we sign up for the course or how to register. Now, because we still have a little bit of time left, I'd like to share with you my screen of how you can do that. Let me try to share my screen now. Right, okay. I believe you can see my screen now. So if you scan the QR code, you'll be directed to this website, which the teaching pathway, how to teach grammar course is showing on the top of the page. You're interested to join, you click signing up for here. In order to join for any of the discount sale or like courses, you need to have teaching English account, which is free. And you can go click here to create a free account, or if you already have an account like me, you can just log into your existing account and the course will be there. To show you the form, so you can have some idea of what kind of information you have to fill in: your picture, email address, your usual information, accepting the terms, condition as usual. Or if you already have teaching English website like me, you can just log in by using your email address, which is And then this is the page when you like log in. On the top of the page, you see my portfolio tab. If you click here, my portfolio, my courses. It's downloading. Then the teaching pathway, how to teach grammar will be shown to you, and you can just click start on the first module from today onwards. Yeah, that's kind of for me on how to stop sharing on how to enroll to the course. Yeah, and that's in August, and then we also have another event coming up in September, which is an online webinar for teacher educators. So if you are also supporting teacher in your school and community, or you are a teacher trainer, you can sign up for this or register for this course. It is on the topic of how teachers can be encouraged to engage with research. The webinar session itself is on the 9th of September at 6 p.m. Bangkok, Jakarta, and Hanoi time, and that will be 5:30 in Myanmar time, which you can register from the link provided here or scan the QR code for the information of this webinar. And then everyone who's attending this webinar will be getting the certificates as well. But for that, I'd like you to spend like a few minutes to complete the end of webinar survey, just to give us some idea of how we do and what can be improved for the next upcoming session. You can type in the link we provided here or scan the QR code that will be directed you to the survey form. And please make sure once you submitted your feedback, please don't close your window just yet, because at the end, there's a little box. After you click submitting, you get the thank you note, and in that thank you note, you will be provided with a link to download your e-certificate, which you can type in your name there. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you everyone for joining us today on Tuesday afternoon, now coming to evening time, and thank you so much for our speaker. See you next time.
Thank you, Book.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, both.
Thank you,
Sawadee ka.
everyone. See you next
Nice to meet you.
time.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
everyone.
visit
Goodbye.
Indonesia. We can meet then.
ขอบคุณทุกคนค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ